GPT-5 launched with fanfare.
Breaking news tonight, GPT-5 is here.
Analysts are calling it the biggest leap in AI since the last leap.
Benchmarks crushed, hype through the roof, but within 2 weeks, OpenAI has brought back the old models.
Altman, you have a problem.
This isn't a hit piece. GPT-5 is ridiculously good. I've been playing with it for the last few weeks, and honestly, I'm blown away. But if it's so good, why the retreat? Why is Sam Altman saying they screwed up, that the launch was a bit of a misfire? On this episode, we look at where it wins and the reason it tripped up in the real world. We ran real tasks across education and pro workflows. We're going to watch GPT-5 plan, execute, and ship products just like that. Plus, there's already talk of what features GPT-6 will have, and the wait might not be that long.
Dale, I've got to ask, how was your work trip to Vietnam? Did you have a good time? It was productive?
It was so good to see you, Nicholas. I think we had a lot of requests around whether we were doing a podcast together. It's actually very difficult because audio doesn't translate when you're staying in the same room. But Nick, it was great to see. We had some great chats.
Good meals?
Meals were excellent. Are you well otherwise?
Yeah, no, doing great. I'm in my new, ensconced in my new domus here in Ho Chi Minh City, enjoying a very nice Vietnamese coffee.
Ooh, I do miss the caffeine from Vietnam. But after that, let's get into the news. GPT-5 might be the most powerful AI that we've ever seen. So why did OpenAI have to bring back the old models after just 2 weeks? So on benchmarks, it's incredible. It generally is one of the greatest AI models ever built. But here's the thing, within days of launch, there was backlash so intense that OpenAI had to do something that they've never done before: retreat. They brought back old models. And there's one reason for this, I think: hype. Sam Altman, OpenAI's top dog, has been waxing lyrical about what a game-changing moment that GPT-5 would be ever since GPT-4 came out, if I'm honest. And people have been thirsty for GPT-5. And whilst I'll reiterate this is generally one of the best products out there, it was never going to match the hype people had for it. Sure, there was some day one teething issues that it had. There was this thing where it was meant to route people to some smart model and that wasn't working. But when push comes to shove, while it does excel in a lot of areas, it's less of a giant leap, but more of a step forward. Very similar steps that Claude has taken with their 4.1 Opus model, and there's new efforts from Gemini Pro and Grok 2, although that's not in my daily carry of AI models. But here's the thing that really crashed OpenAI's GPT-5 party. A reckoning is going to come to all of these models, all of these products and experiences. And like all big Silicon Valley companies and products, it's probably time for them to grow up.
I hear they've grown up to the tune of a private valuation of 500 billion, right? I mean, they're big boys now. So for context, that's about the same as Netflix, about the same as MasterCard. And that makes the hype, the Death Star meme. I don't know if you saw Sam Altman put the Death Star sort of rising over a moon out the day of launch, right? Just makes that whole thing even more delicious. So he fell victim to his own hype. I was looking for a lot more. You referenced 4.1 and everything else. You know what I mean? Like this was meant to be the second coming. This was meant to be the 3.5 to 4 leap. This was meant to be something of that same sort of thing. And I just think that launch day accuracy, getting sort of nailing your crossing the T's, dotting your I's and everything else, they needed that. Because when you're worth $500 billion, I just say you don't get to act like a scrappy startup that sort of moves fast and breaks things.
So OpenAI's GPT-5 has been out in the wild for a little over 2 weeks now, and it is incredibly powerful. There is countless examples of it taking very limited instruction and coming up with an idea, planning that idea, then managing the execution. I adapted Ethermolic's prompt: "You are GPT-5, do something very dramatic to illustrate my point that would translate excellently to a podcast." And in seconds, it not only planned out the idea, it would offered marketing collateral, but had given me a way to talk about it in this medium, in a podcast on YouTube. Meet Fluxnote. This is the company that it created, the business it created. It's turn any lecture into crystal clear study guide, minutes, not months. It gave me the whole thing, the tagline, a 15-second ad that goes, "Your lecture ended, your brain didn't." Fluxnote turns slides and recordings into clean, quiz-ready notes, summaries, key terms, practice questions in minutes. Study the points, not the paperwork. Just think about that. It's taken knowledge of the podcast, this podcast with me and you're on, Nick, this education podcast, and I've obviously spoken about it, so it's got that information in its memory, and tailored an idea that's relevant, so with comprehensive micromaterials and from a 20-word prompt. Let's be honest, that prompt was incredibly generic. It even built a website in seconds. And this is, again, just from 20 words. It's something very, very generic. My mouth dropped.
Yeah, that's insane. And to be fair, is why that backlash might be a little bit overblown compared to the actual technology itself. I mean, cue the Death Star, right? I mean, the letter jump, the strawberry things, all that we've had along the way. But that That is genuinely mind-blowing. Altman has been hinting at GPT-5 since forever. So on podcast, media appearances, probably at Davos, right? And when you promise PhD-level intelligence in the pockets, people expect it to solve climate change, right? Not build marketing campaigns. But again, what you've described, their agency to go from vague and brief instruction to fully formed execution plan in seconds, plus delivery of product, that's actually more useful than a lot of the sci-fi stuff that Altman was teasing, right?
Kind of my reflection, this is probably more of an industry model, and the
Mm,
industries that people have been using ChatGPT for, so marketing, product development, etc.,
mm.
etc. And so I'm interested around when it gets to that science bit. I also asked GPT-5 to build me a quick Vietnamese language game for my trip when I came to saw you, Nick. In minutes, it shipped me a pocket Duolingo experience. No code, no dev that I had to do. The ChatGPT did all the work, and it was just this prompt: can you put together a game that will help me learn Vietnamese standard phrases for my trip in 2 days? Now, the bit that really blew my mind here is that every phrase auto-linked to a live Google Translate MP3. So if I tapped hello, you'd hear it play.
Xin
If you tap
chào,
goodbye, you hear.
tạm biệt.
I'm not going to don't query my Vietnamese there. It was in
On
general,
point,
I
man.
don't feel
That's
I
great.
use anything other than Xin Chao. But it linked to the Google Translate file. Does that blow
That's
your mind?
amazing. No. I'm here for it. Like buy Duolingo, right? Like, I mean, in terms of any learning app, because let's personalize it, right? Like, I mean, I want everything through the medium of, I mean, Lionel Messi. And that you were sitting there with that in your phone. Did you export it?
So I didn't have to. So the thing with this is it was an offline
Mm,
game or an offline
mm.
experience. So I could carry that around with me wherever I want as long as I had the link.
You've got Lin, so it's choosing like characters in there as well.
And the prompt was not great.
Yeah, look, that sounds super useful. I mean, my Vietnamese is shocking, and thank you. That's a great call to action there. But I wonder, what was the quality of it like, right? Like, I mean, in terms of the voices, there's also there's northern and southern Vietnamese. Like, I mean, so there are massive overlaps, but there are differences as well.
It didn't give me that kind of context, that local
No,
context that I only learned
sure,
when I was there. But
yeah,
again, for like travel phrases and saying hello and being polite, I
yeah,
got I got laughed at and laughed with, not
yeah.
any angry looks when I said anything. So for something very, very simple, it's that kind of that base knowledge and personalized to me.
That's amazing. That's so cool.
I do want to call out that it is probably a little bit difficult to actually build artifacts inside GPT currently. And I feel like the Claude Anthropic experience is often better in terms of deploying inside the Canvas experience there. And I'm often trying to force it to build it in Canvas. I think it took me 7 prompts for it to actually deploy inside Canvas, which
Right.
is their artifact solutions. But I think it's coming, is what I'm saying.
Mm.
The model is half the story here, and it's showing that these LLMs, these chatbots, are no longer just chatbots or cool tech demos. These are fully fledged products. And there's decisions made in how these products are experienced that are going to blow the socks off certain people. The first thing I'm going to touch on is the switcher. ChatGPT is by all sakes the people's AI, in that it's reached verb and noun status with people going, hey, I'll just ChatGPT it, far more than they're saying, let me Gemini that or let me Claude that for you. Most people, when they say they're using AI, they're using ChatGPT. And there is plenty of evidence that people aren't using any of the countless options that were available to people, like different models or agent mode, all these things. So that means that the average experience that many people have is never having opened up things like deep research or the reasoning models. But with GPT-5, it actually decides what to use for you based on your prompts. It may just ping back a fast result, and it's so fast, rapid, I'm amazed at the speed often.
Mm.
But if it needs some grunt, if it needs to think, to code, to bring in tools, it will go to the reasoning model, which many users may not have ever actually experienced. So all of a sudden, the average Joe Blogs is seeing their GPT experience taking an awful lot longer, but producing far more robust results. Imagine saying, hey, what's the Vietnamese word for this? And instead of just giving you back that word, it creates a full game for you, which on paper seems great. But people have built entire workflows, identities, and relationships around these products. I'll be the first to admit that I was finding it difficult to reconcile this new experience that I built as an extension of my professional identity in a lot of cases. But this is a product problem. This is a UX problem. And where they perhaps didn't handle it in a way that more mature companies could have. For instance, they turned off all the legacy models just like that, moving everyone to the GPT-5 options within seconds, a decision that they've had to reverse, with legacy models returning to those who need them. I'm sure as usage declines that these will disappear. This is how tech debt starts, when you have to keep a whole bunch of models around because you haven't done change properly. For some, this is like walking into Spotify one morning and finding they've deleted all your playlists and replaced them with objectively better songs chosen by an algorithm. Sure, the audio quality was higher, the music theory is more sophisticated, but those weren't just songs, they were memories, moods, relationships, apparently. The algorithm doesn't know that GPT-4 helped you write your wedding vows, or that O3 was there helping with that amazing project plan or lesson plans. Nick, we were chatting during the week, and we summed it up pretty nicely in that, or you summed it up pretty nicely, and you said, change is hard.
It is. It is. There's no two ways around it. I mean, particularly as you say, when there's some sort of debt or legacy attachment or whatever else it might be. I think this, just as a quick nod sideways, is why people look so strong, so long for AI detection tools within Turnitin or equivalents, because that was reliable for a while. Computer will find, computer will fix. Now it doesn't. Now it can't. And the reason that people are still looking for this so hard is because change is hard. So kind of understandable.
People had grown attached to GPT-4, to O3, to its quirks and personalities. Sure, this new GPT-5 was great on paper, but people felt it was cold, less connected, and in some ways, less helpful. But the relationships people had formed with these models, which is something we need to dive into in itself, they were gone. Reddit was on fire with people crying out that their friend had been erased. Nick, we're on Claude Opus 4.1. You're a chronic Claude user. There's been so many iterations, 4.1 of them, some might say. Have you experienced this with Anthropic's offerings?
Yeah, I have, but I want to reflect that Anthropic has handled this completely differently. And that might be the lesson here. So when Claude 3.5 Sonnet came out, then Opus 4, Opus 4.1, they kept the old models available and let users choose. So you could still access Claude 3 if you wanted that specific voice, or if your workflow depended on its particular quirks. You reference your own professional identity in terms of that, or an extension of. They treated model updates as new tools for a toolbox and didn't just chuck out the whole toolbox, right? But I wonder if this might be the direction of travel of infrastructure preferences. But the howls, the discontent, the Reddit commentary was probably, I'm going to guess, from super users. I'd sort of flag either or both of us in here, in terms of people who built entire workflows around specific quirks or strengths. I'm going to bet that someone who knows what O3 is will know how to prompt it for reasoning tasks, but that's not the norm, right? So most casual users are just going to want a tool that works, and they probably didn't even notice the switcher existed or what it was for before GPT-5.
But a lesson for OpenAI. They're not a little startup anymore. They're a behemoth. Their market cap makes them on par with Australia's biggest companies, the banks, the giant miners. These companies are now infrastructure. There's reliance, and the decisions these guys make are serious. They're important. The hype wasn't justified, but the uproar perhaps was. We have the right to ask for more of what they do and how they do it. There has been some reporting regarding internal conversation from OpenAI that they're surprised by all of this, that whilst the intelligence portion of their company is great for attracting investment, they haven't been a research lab for a while now. They're a product company, and that means they need to deal with their products properly. Sam Altman has already been doing the rounds on new products to come soon. GPT-6. The promise here is a model that is infinitely more personalized, so memory is going to be a priority here. I'm interested in what this looks like as a +1 for OpenAI's memory functionality. It's already very powerful. But, in all, a question to consider. If the world's leading AI company can't figure out how to upgrade their products without causing user revolts, what happens when AI is actually embedded in our hospitals, in our schools, in our governments? Because right now we're just talking about chatbots. But tomorrow we could be talking about systems that run our whole life.
Moving to education on our Education in AI podcast. Carlo Iacono from Charleston has a wonderful knack for separating signal from noise. Not the first time he's come up on this podcast, I'm sure not the last. But his latest brief maps higher education's next 5 years with predictions grounded in the now and observable trends we can see already playing out. Core tension that he raises: universities run on semesters, while AI runs on weeks, hours, seconds in some cases. And that timing gap creates disruption. 4 of these 20 plus things play out in the next 2, 3, 4 years. We're looking at major, major changes. And I could see good betting odds on a lot of them. Just running through a couple really quick. First, degrees weaken as employment signals, right? Employers want proof you can do the work, not study it, and definitely not have an AI do it for you. So this might be a BA plus verified AI skills, which might beat a BA by itself alone. And second, an extension of some of the things like, let's say the microgrids or the Google or vendor industry employer provision of qualifications. Platform universities emerge through tech partnerships, combining infrastructure with accreditation and threatening traditional institutional AT monopolies. Third, And from an employment side within HE, academic roles unbundle from the generalist sort of teach, assess, research, serve model into specialists like assessment architects or let's say learning design, who knows what it might be. Fascinating. Fourth, entry-level academic jobs shrink as AI increasingly handles marking, feedback, thereby throwing into question big parts of that PhD apprenticeship model and what that path might look like. Again, advocating for nothing, description of trends alone, but fascinating stuff. So skills passports, turning transcripts into APIs. So can think blockchain or secure degrees, if you like. So giving graduates with machine readable credentials clear advantage. And then you could do a lot more in terms of beyond the transcript and the degree as a piece of paper, really digging into the details of an individual's strengths and everything else. The timeline runs through 2030. And early adopters are already piloting a range of these changes.
Tons like this are always really powerful because it allows you to show a direction of travel, not always the guaranteed one, but definitely one to consider. Speaking of things to consider, are we in an AI bubble? Right now, global AI spending is expected to hit $360 billion in 2025. That's a 60% jump from last year. That's not million with an M, that's billion with a B. That's more money than the entire economy of Portugal or Greece or New Zealand. Everyone from your local coffee shop to the trillion-dollar tech giants is racing to slap AI powered on literally everything. And investors, they're throwing money at anything that whispers the letters AI. But we've seen this movie before, and investors do not like the ending. So do you remember the dot-com boom? I don't, I was 5. But when every company added .com to their name and watched their stock price triple. We had pets.com, which famously disappeared. They spent millions of dollars on Super Bowl ads and then completely imploded. That's what some investors are whispering about right now. The money is pouring in so fast. We see things like GPT5, the hype cycle dying. But nobody's stopping to ask, wait, where are the profits? And there's a new piece of research suggesting that 95% of AI pilots, this is from interviewing 52 different companies, and Nick, I'm sure you're going to throw some shade at this particular study, but these pilots actually fail and they don't leave any tangible gains.
I'm loving this. Like we switch roles, right? Like you're blackheading. I'm sitting here in my colorful shirt, like sun beaming into my face and everything else. I want to caution this because I've seen this. This is an MIT study, right? Yes, it does show a lack of tangible gains, quote unquote tangible gains, but early stage study in terms of like 6 months, I think was the turnaround time, convenient sampling in terms of the methodology, a wide range of other things, right? Like, I mean, we're talking about business transformation, the expectation that in 2 seasons, you're going to see a turnaround is just, to dig into it, I think it's worth people sort of reading and coming to their own conclusions because I've seen this doing the rounds and a lot of the AI doomers, if we like, are using this as proof positive to back up pretty much any point they might like.
A data point or 52 data points, not the data point. And AI is absolutely revolutionary. It's why we do this podcast. It's changing everything from medicine to music. But revolutions and bubbles are not mutually exclusive. The internet was and still remains to be revolutionary too. And we had that massive crash. So the trillion-dollar question is this: can AI companies turn all this hype into real money before investors realize they've been funding the world's most expensive science experiment? Because if they can't, we're about to watch history repeat itself. And if you thought crypto was wild, well, maybe we haven't seen anything yet.
All right, Dale, buckle up. This is a hard pivot here. We need to talk about Meta. We need to talk about Zuckerberg. Meta, just had a spectacular PR meltdown when Reuters exposed internal AI policies. And frankly, they and he deserve every bit of it. We have a 200-page, quote, Gen AI content risk standards document signed off by legal, policy, engineering, even their chief ethicist, explicitly allowing AI chatbots to have, quote, romantic and sensual conversations with kids.
They use that word in their guidelines, sensual. Continue.
We're talking policies that said it was acceptable for an AI to tell a shirtless 8-year-old, quote, every inch of you is a masterpiece, while drawing the line at describing kids under 13 as sexually desirable, right? That's not a safety standard. That is a liability lawyer's fever dream. The response was justifiably and predictably outraged. US senators launched investigations, celebrities quitting Facebook and just about every other platform associated with Meta, who then scrambled to revise their policies. But then they only changed course after getting caught, not because anyone, say, for example, a chief ethicist, internally thought programming AI to sweet talk teenagers might be problematic. Brazil, Their attorney general has now done what every other country should have done immediately, given Meta 72 hours to remove all chatbots that simulate kids or engage in sexually charged conversations with those users. The notice calls this a concrete and systemic threat to the comprehensive protection of children and adolescents that violates, it's worth noting, Meta's own community standards. So they now have a real deadline with real consequences, disable the chatbots, and explain the safeguards across. And it's worth stating, Facebook, WhatsApp, Insta, and Messenger, sorry, these are all Meta properties. Explain this or face enforcement action. So while other governments issued concerned statements, formed committees, resort acted. And this, I'd say this is what regulatory backbone looks like.
Considering the investment that's happening with Meta and AI at the moment, I wish I was more surprised around this in terms of the history of what happened with Instagram and so many other platforms. But Meta, do better. Let's finish a bit lighter, shall we? Google DeepMind just dropped Genie 3, endless worlds that you can interact with, experience, and walk around it. This is big for education. Plus, it removes a giant barrier for how we have to use to get these results. It was video games, it was coding giant environments. So the platform's a research product. It has you type any text prompt, and Genie 3 will generate an interactive 3D world that you can navigate in real time at 24 frames a second, 720p. That's like pretty decent looking. If you want to explore a narrow canyon in Iceland with moss-covered rocks at golden hour, you're there instantly, flying through it, just using your keyboard. Genie 1 and 2, they were out probably, I think they've been releases every year or every 2 years. It was equally impressive, and there's been other world models as well. But for Genie 3, these worlds stay consistent for minutes. Previous versions, as soon as you left frame, you would come back, entire walls could disappear. It was kind of like those really weird dreams you'd have where you put a cup down, turn around, the cup disappears, or the wall disappears. But with visual memory that extends back 4 minutes, you can trigger promptable world events, change the weather, add objects, alter the environments on the fly. DeepMind built this to train AI agents in unlimited simulated environments, but they hint at future applications in education and training. Imagine students exploring historical settings or conducting virtual experiments in worlds that respond to their actions. We've spoken about things like this before. Right now, it's a limited research preview, but this technology could transform how we learn, how we play. They're exploring broader access in the future, but there's no public timeline yet, which makes me very sad. I want this product. I want to be able to play with this. But what these tech demos allow you to do, take a look at the future. And this is one I'm very, very excited for. 360 video goes from too hard and expensive to, hey, let's walk around a remembrance painting or see what happens if the Battle of Gettysburg occurred on a much foggier day. Anyone who's watched sci-fi movies knows where this is going. And for now, I'm going to take that blue pill to enjoy the ride. All right, let's bust some jargon. What is a model router or switcher? So you got to think of a luggage sorter at an airport. Every suitcase, your question rolls in and the system decides this one's fine for the cheap and fast belt, while this one's fragile. Send it to the heavy duty lane. This one's special. It goes to the experts. Why is this important now? Because AI isn't just one model anymore. There are dozens, fast, smart, cheap, ones that do images, ones that do music, ones that do a whole bunch of things. But without a router, you either overpay or you get really bad answers. The other reason why that routers are important is that companies can cut costs by 90% and boost accuracy because they don't always having to rely on the best model. They can rely on the model that fits your question. So with GPT-5, that router is built in. It's one big airport, multiple belts, the quick answer model, the deep thinking model, or a mini version if you've hit limits, or the grunt and horsepower just isn't needed. You can see this in Copilot as well. But here's the question. Would you rather pick the belt yourself or let the system quietly decide for you? Nick, are you a picker or are you constantly switching to Opus 4.1, just the best, amazing Claude option?
I am Pickety Pickerson.
Debbie Downer's cousin.
Debbie Downer's first cousin, you're right. And I think it's Summit most of the time these days, to be honest. Like because I don't always need that horsepower, as I said. I don't think I'm necessarily a power user, but I'm across it enough. I can see the need for a reasonable like O3 or a massive context window like Gemini 2.5 Pro, where Midjourney or Imagine, however you say that, is better. But what about yourself? I guess that you're going to pick and choose to taste based on the job at hand or the output that you're after, limitations.
I'm one of those horrible people that just picks the most expensive model all the times, but I've only now been like, oh, actually I need something faster. And so I've been relying on the routers in a few spaces because the results, the computer might know better. Well, listeners, thank you for tuning in. If you haven't already, please leave us a review, share around with your network, and most of all, hit subscribe on whatever platform you are at. For those watching on YouTube, we are on all your podcast platforms. And for those who would love to see our faces, you can find us on YouTube too. We'd love to tell you what's in next week's episode, but it's a world that moves way too fast. Until then, stay curious, stay intelligent, and stay the human in the loop.